Metrobank, the first ever champion of women's and girls cricket, has launched the Metrobank Girls and Cricket Fund with the ECB. The goal? To triple the number of girls' cricket teams by 2026. Cricket builds confidence and skills in women's and girls, and through the Metrobank Girls and Cricket Fund, Metrobank and the ECB aim to create more opportunities and role models for young women in their communities. Help champion the future of girls' cricket by visiting metrobankonline.co.uk/cricket. Hello and welcome to the Wisden Women's Cricket Weekly Podcast. Lots to get through today. England start their series against New Zealand next week. We'll talk a bit about the visitors when we talk to one of their players, Lauren Down, about her return to the game after maternity leave and all the accompanying challenges around that. It's finals day in the Charlotte Edwards Cup, so we'll talk a bit about that as well. I'm Rana, and with me as ever is Lauren Winfield-Hill. Apologies if the audio quality isn't its usual standard today. Logistical hurdles have meant that I'm unable to get my usual mic. And Lauren, do you want to talk through why you're not with your usual equipment?
Yeah, I've had a bit of a stinker this end as well. So yeah, Courtney left yesterday and I believe has taken her Mac and my Mac. So I am I'm throwing it back to a little bit of Zoom on the phone, like COVID times, hotel COVID times.
Yeah, I don't really want to think about that. But we'll get through it, I'm sure. You've had an exciting week. You got a new gig this summer. Talk us through it.
Yeah, really exciting. Obviously taking the reins at the Invincibles. Yeah, JB spoke to me about it a little while ago now, to be fair. But obviously just got out into the big wide world yesterday. Yeah, massive opportunity. Like I'm so excited about it. To be honest, I just love the 100. I love that time of year is like a real sort of block in the calendar that you're always really pumped for. And yeah, it's really nice, like I've been at the Oval a couple of years now. Love it there, love the place, love the people. And I'm pretty lucky. It's a fairly settled core group. There's some other fantastic leaders in the team as well. So yeah, really, really pumped and looking forward to, the sun's shining as well. It feels like we're getting close to that time of year. So it's really exciting.
Talk me through I guess the role of a captain at 100 side. It's more than just telling your players where to go and bowling changes and all that on the day. There's a lot more behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think like that side of captaincy is obviously crucial, especially in the 100. There is quite a lot of tactical stuff to get right in terms of, the sets, the bowlers bowl another five and all that sort of stuff. There's probably more than what there generally is in T20 cricket. I'll say that now. I'll make it sound like it's the hardest job in the world. No, I'll just get that in there early. No, but I think probably my biggest strength and a role of a captain that's not talked about quite so much is like bringing people together. And, getting to know everybody's different personalities, what makes them tick, what do they need under pressure. And basically trying to get the best out of people. I actually think that's a way bigger job than making tactical decisions on a game day, because that's quite instinctive and you're going to get some of that right and you're going to get some of that wrong. But I think your ability to sort of get everybody else bringing their best is probably the part that's most underrated. And I think is the thing that interests me most about leadership, really.
How do you go about that? Because it's such a short competition. You're not actually together as a group for a very long time. So how do you go about getting to know players? Because it's pretty much get together and you hit the ground running very quickly.
I think it's just time and energy, isn't it? Like, I would say I've built really good relationships in that group already with, like, for me, I sort of treat everybody, whether they've played 100 games for their country or they've played one game of 100 cricket, it doesn't really matter to me. I give the youngsters as much time and energy and as I do the sort of senior players. I think it's probably those like organic conversations where you're just chatting. It might be about their story, their life, how they act on their best day, and talking to them in nets, things like that. Setting fields, having little contests in nets, reviewing that. How do you, like I think someone like Shmail, for example, she'll bowl at me quite a lot in the nets because obviously power play bowler, power play batter, and just chatting. How do you think that went? What was difficult? What was, what did I feel like was easier to score off? going for coffee, things like that. And then probably just that first week when you meet is like setting the scene, getting to know, there's some new faces, a couple of new overseas, things like that is, it's almost like speed dating, isn't it? You're just trying to get to know people quick. What makes you tick? What do you look like at your best? What's good to say on the field? What's an absolute that's not helpful? Yeah, it's just conversation, really.
No, that sounds exciting. We should get one of your teammates on at the end of the 100 to get their perspective on your captaincy. That'd be good fun.
Yeah, that'll be good. It's like a live review of the season.
We'll record it separately, so you don't hear it until it goes live. That'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It's finals day in the Charlotte Edwards Cup tomorrow. The Sparks play the Blaze and the Vipers play the Southeast Stars. There are many England players involved: Tammy Beaumont, Lauren Bell, Maya Boucher, Charlie Dean, Sophia Dunkley, Tash Farron, Freya Kemp, and Danny Wyatt are all involved. 5 of those players are Vipers players. Lauren, it's quite hard to look past the Vipers who won the last 2 Charlotte Edwards Cups.
It is, and they're absolutely stacked, aren't they? I think they're one of those teams where they're funny, the Vipers, because I think you get sort of 2 versions of the Vipers at various points throughout the season. I mean, they're a very strong outfit, even without their England players. Credit to their sort of, I guess they've had the luxury of like the Super League follow-on, where it's just then evolved into that continuity. But yeah, that's a pretty stacked Vipers team. I actually think without England players, the best team on paper is the Southeast Stars, because they have probably the best domestic available players frequently. You look at like Bryony Smith, Alice Davison-Richards, Rhiannon McDonald-Gay, Tash Farron, all those sorts of girls. So I think, yeah, like they're probably, in my opinion, the strongest team without all their England guns. But like you say, Vipers are just blessed with so many England players. And it's probably a different challenge for them, like Lottie's challenge is probably those players coming in and out and managing that. And then how you manage the disappointed girls that have played a lot of the season but then won't feature necessarily in finals days. But I think it's set to be a really good, good weekend, lots of good games, because I think, like you say, across that many games as well, there's been more games this year. Like the best teams really do go through to finals, and I think it's going to be pretty hard to see a team beating in that Vipers outfit.
Worth touching on the Blaze. They finished top of the league table. What do they do well as a team?
They've got all bases covered. I think they've got some really good, like you look at Catherine Bryce, she was top in the MVP for the T20s. I think she's always been a handy operator with the ball, but what I think her biggest thing this season has been her improvement with the bat. She's been awesome with the bat this year, and I think that's been a really good boost for the Blaze. So I think they've got good options with the ball. They've obviously got left arm Bollinger. I think they're led really nicely by Kirsty Gordon. She's a really good competitor, wants to win, gets a bit of white line fever, and turns a bit red. But I think I like that. I think she's very passionate and competitive. I think she leads them well. But yeah, they've just got a pretty good all round outfit, and I think especially you look at someone like Marie Kelly, whose form's not been it's not been hugely successful this year so far. Her obviously having the opportunity to open without Tammy Beaumont there, and then gets runs. So it's like there's another player that's now just in form at the right time. So I think they've got all bases covered, and they've got that continuity where their team doesn't change hugely. You've got Glennie and Tammy that come in. Nat very rarely plays, but not a lot gets shuffled about very often. And I think that sort of continuity and consistency of the players that you're playing and the 11 that you're playing is, we see it all the time, don't we? I think those players and teams that have good consistency generally sort of do well and find a way.
Yeah, just on those 2 Scots that you mentioned, Catherine Bryce is having an amazing tournament. She's a leading run scorer, 4 50s from 10 games, and Kirsty Gordon's got 19 wickets from 10 games, averaging 11, going at comfortably under a run of ball. So she's going really well as well. Bit of cricket happening today that's quite interesting. So in England development 11 are playing New Zealand, and I always find these sort of games and squad announcements very interesting because it sort of shows who England might be looking at in the near future. So that England 11 today is Holly Armitage, who's skippering, Kate Cross, Lauren Filer, Jodie Grucock, Bess Heath, Emma Lamb, V Morris, Grace Scrivens, Seren Smale, Maddie Villiers, and Izzy Wong. Lauren, I wanted to pick out two names there who people might not have heard a lot about before. Jodie Grucock and Seren Smale, both 19 years old. Tell us about them.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I've watched Seren Smale for a little while, and I think she's a great prospect. Really, I like her character the most. I remember we played against her in the first game of the season actually, and it was a pretty tricky wicket. We weren't chasing a very big score, and I was, I don't know, like 6 off 18 balls or whatever. But I sort of wasn't stressing because I was like, well, just got to get the job done here. And she was chirping away. I think she was at point or somewhere, and she was giving me some stick about my strike rate and this, that, and the other. I was about 70 odd not out at the end, so I wasn't too worried. But I had the last laugh. But I just sort of loved that. Like I was just, a 19-year-old. I think she'd got 50. She got runs in that. She played really nicely in the first innings. And I just love that she was getting stuck in and was, had a bit of character about her. I think she's a great player. She lines up really nicely. Got pretty simple technique. Just a really good classical player. She's got good options against both seam and spin. But the thing that stood out the most for me was just she had a bit of grunt. She wasn't afraid to. She's a 19-year-old playing senior cricket, and it was. It's been like she's belonged for a couple of years now, which is really good sign for a youngster that can sort of hold their own and not back down really.
How important is that for a young player making their way, just sort of having that confidence to be themselves and assert their personality on a game of cricket?
Yeah, I love that. Like, I'm not a coach, but I think if I was a coach, that'd be something that I'd be looking for. I think lots of people have got really great skill. But not everybody has character. And I think actually to go to the next level, you've got to have, we say you've got to have something about you. Well, you do. We don't know what that something is, but we know when we sort of see it or hear it, or you see behaviours and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's what sets young players apart is do they want to be in the mixer and not shy away and be under pressure, or do they want to sort of retreat and withdraw against that? And I think, I've certainly seen a little glimmers of that from playing against her. She's a bit of a cheeky chappy, she's got a nice blend of it's sort of all taken in good spirit, but she's got a confidence, which I think is awesome.
And Jodie Grucock, she's also 19.
Yeah, she's very different to Seren. She's quite a quiet operator. She's not as sort of like on the front line as much as Seren and getting involved and chirping away and sort of has that presence quite as much. She's like I guess she's more of a player that just lets the skill do the talking. But I remember playing against her a couple of years ago at Chelmsford. I think she was opening the batting then, or she was batting in the top 3, left-hander. And I remember coming home actually and saying to Corny, I said, they've got this new left-hander. I've not seen her before, but she looks like a good player. She lines up well. She's pretty composed. And actually we played against her a couple of weeks ago, and I think it was a low-scoring game. And I think she came in and got 20 off 12 balls, just sort of basically hit where the fielder was up with 4 out every time. And just sort of flicked the switch for the Sunrisers. And yeah, I think she's just sort of like quietly chipping away. She's not sort of blasted the house down, but I think she's a really, really good player, and she lines up really well. She's a good athlete. And probably the biggest thing this season is she's bowling now. And I think that's the way the game's going, isn't it? Everybody wants all-rounders to contribute in more than one facet. And I think, she's probably been throwing the ball a lot more than people expected at the start of the year for the Sunrisers, but she's done really well. I think she got, she sort of bowls, I don't know if they're googlies or just like flat sort of leggies. but she's got pretty good control. And for someone that's only just starting to bowl leg spin, it's a hard skill to control. And just sort of attacks the stumps, which is in T20 cricket is as effective as most things. So yeah, I think it's really good. It's really great to see some new names in there. I think she's a really good prospect as well, and she's just a good compact cricketer who I think she lines up really well and seems to have a lot of really good, like I say, she seems very calm, she seems very composed and got some really good attributes.
Well, they're both only 19, so it'll be fascinating to keep an eye on their development over the course of the summer. Lauren, a bit on New Zealand, England's opponents next week. Where are they at as a side? Because it's been a while since they've properly challenged at major tournaments, and their recent record isn't great. They lost the home T20I series to Pakistan this winter, which is a series that historically you'd expect New Zealand to win. Where do you see them as a side?
Well, I think on paper they should be a lot better than they are, to be brutally honest. I think there's some world-class experienced players in there. They've obviously lost a few over the last year with Amy Satterthwaite and players like that have retired. But this, you put Sophie Devine, Susie Bates, Amelia Kerr in, they'd make most World 11 teams. Across the course of their careers, they've been phenomenal players, but we just haven't quite seen the best of them when it counts. And I think for a lot of those players, you look at the T20 World Cup and, how many more World Cups are some of those players going to play? So I think it's been a bit of, I reckon on paper, they've not sort of produced what they should be producing and are capable of for quite some time. I think, they're a team that should be massively up there with the heavyweights, but they're just not. And I know it's one of those things where, you look at the domestic structure and the support and all that sort of stuff, where a lot of the girls who have their best players have basically played all around the world. It's made them the best players. And it's sort of, there's quite a big gap between those players and the girls that are based in New Zealand all year round. And I know that their sort of structure and support and contracts and things like that is not quite where, some of the heavyweights are. But I still think there's definitely more in there than what we've seen, especially in global competitions.
That series kicks off next week. It's 3 ODIs, the first of which is at Chester Street, and then you've got 5 T20Is to follow. Next up, we'll hear from New Zealand's Lauren Down. So Down spoke to Katya Witney earlier in the week. She had a breakthrough couple of years in international cricket in 2021 and 2022, got a really good 90 against Australia a few years ago, before deciding to take time out of the game to have her first child. It's a really interesting interview covering all the challenges that juggling motherhood and a career as a pro sportswoman throw at you.
Cool. So how are you finding being back in the UK at the minute?
Yeah, it's been nice to come back over. Obviously I've had a little bit of time away from touring and away from the game. So yeah, excited to be back on tour and back with the girls, and obviously nice being in the UK. Again, it's been a few years since we've been here. And so it's nice this time around. It's not no COVID restrictions, so we can actually get out a little bit more and enjoy the sights of the UK. But we're about a week in so far, and it's been really good.
And you mentioned you'd had a bit of time away from touring. You had a baby earlier this year. How have you found being a mum?
Yeah, I love being a mum, and it's something that I've always known that I've wanted to do, and obviously it's a little bit trickier trying to juggle it with sport and playing international cricket. But yeah, I'm very fortunate that for me so far it's all gone really well with during my pregnancy and then after birth and trying to come back, it's all gone really well. So I'm very fortunate. But I love being a mum. It's been challenging at times with some sleepless nights and trying to get up and train, but getting to come home and see her smiling face and just hang out with her after training, it's really nice.
What was that decision like? You say you've always wanted to be a mum. What was the decision like to do that while still having your playing career at the same time?
Yeah, it was tough because I knew obviously I was going to spend some time away from the game. And just with the way cricket is at the moment, there's, we're playing a lot of cricket, and so I knew I was going to miss quite a bit. But I sort of felt like I was at a point in my career where it was a good time to just take, a little break, and it was a good opportunity to see if we could start a family, knowing that if everything went well, the aim was to come back post-baby and give cricket a really good crack for another 4, 5, however many years I can. So it just sort of felt like a good time.
Was there ever a thought in the back of your mind that maybe I won't be able to come back because it's obviously such a big change to your body and a big stress on your body and also attitude as well, I guess?
Yeah, certainly. And I remember my initial conversations with New Zealand cricket where I've got every intention of coming back and wanting to come back and play cricket again, but I'm realistic that I don't know how all of it's going to go with myself, but then also with the baby, whether the birth goes well and whether she's fit and healthy, and that would then allow me to come back. I knew that was sort of a risk. But yeah, as I say, fortunately, everything has gone really well. She's really healthy. She's really well behaved and a good little traveller. So it's made things quite easy so far.
How was the flight with her? Is she 6 months old now, about?
Just about 6 months, yeah. I was a little bit nervous with the flight. Obviously, it's a super long way. But she did really well. She got a little bit grizzly towards the end, and I know we're a little bit mindful that we didn't want to be those people on the plane with a crying baby. But given we traveled from one side of the world to the other, she did really well. And it's been a little bit tricky trying to adjust her to the different time zones. Obviously, we got in a pretty good routine at home, and now we're trying to do the same, but at the opposite end of the day. So it's been a little bit tough, but she's done really well.
And how did you find the New Zealand Cricket Board during that process of being pregnant and then coming back?
Yeah, New Zealand Cricket have been amazing, and obviously the Players Association as well. They've been very, very supportive, and right from kind of when I had the initial conversations and told New Zealand Cricket and the CPA that I was pregnant, I've had such amazing support right the way through. And then coming back, everyone has just been really supportive and just tried to do everything that they can to allow me to come back and get back on tour, and then obviously have her with me, and then have support on tour, which is then allowing me obviously to go to training and to play. So yeah, everyone's been incredible, and I'm certainly very grateful.
Did you find, from like a training point of view, from the process of coming back to train after giving birth, did you find that there was enough knowledge around that process? Because I think it is a little bit of an under discussed area.
Yeah, certainly. And I was very mindful that, having spoken to Amy Satterthwaite, when she came back, she felt that there perhaps wasn't enough sort of attention in those early stages, because obviously your body goes through, a lot. And it is very different from coming back from an injury per se. So those were conversations that I had with New Zealand Cricket as well. And I've been working with like a pelvic floor physio and working with a strength and conditioning coach who has had experience in working with postpartum athletes coming back before. So I found that really helpful, and I certainly don't think I would have been able to get to where I am now if I hadn't sort of done that work early on. So I think it's hugely important to make sure that you do that and you allow your body time to heal.
And how did you find coming back into training after giving birth personally?
Yeah, it was hard. It was really hard. Sort of, it's hard not to think where you were kind of 12 months ago, pre-pregnancy and pre-baby, and try and compare that when you're sort of doing your first gym session, or you're trying to run 200 meters down the road. Like, I couldn't even do that to start with, so it was really, really tough. But I just had to keep reminding myself that it's going to take some time. Your body changes a lot and it goes through a lot, and even while I'm training, I'm still breastfeeding. I'm not having as much sleep as what I normally have, so it's trying to be mindful of that as well, and trying to just remember that where I started when I first started training again to where I am now, like, I've come a really long way. And there have been some tough times where I've thought, oh, is this going to be too hard? Like, am I going to be able to come back? And I know I've tried to come back quite quickly. In the grand scheme of things, I've really wanted to sort of push things and get back touring and playing cricket as soon as I can. So there have been some tough times, but I'm just really grateful for sort of all the support that I've had, obviously from New Zealand Cricket and the Players Association, but also from my family, my parents, my partner. They're helping out massively, and it's allowing me to obviously go back to cricket and try and give it a really good crack.
And you mentioned obviously your daughter's on tour with you. What's the experience of touring with her been like compared to what it was like before? I can imagine it's busier.
It's busy, and it makes me wonder what I did with my time before having her. But it's really nice, you go off to training in the morning and then come home, and it's mum duty, and it's just nice having sort of that break away. You get back from cricket, and then I'm focusing on her, and while I'm here, I'm being a mum, and then I get back on the bus to go to training in the morning, and then kind of refocus on cricket again. It's actually quite refreshing. It is certainly busier, and while she's so young as well, she obviously requires a lot more attention and looking after. But I've actually really enjoyed, the experience, and just getting to hang out with her on tour. I feel very lucky.
And you mentioned Amy Satterthwaite there as well, and there's also Leah Tahuhu, who's parent in the group. Have you spoken to them much about touring with a baby as well?
Yeah, I've spoken to both Amy and Leah a lot throughout the whole kind of journey, right from when I was pregnant to coming back, and very grateful to sort of have them to lean on. They've obviously been through this before, and they've toured with a young one, and they've sort of been really helpful in terms of giving advice on what sort of worked for them and what didn't, and then obviously having conversations with Amy around her return to play and what she felt like really helped her, and again what she wished she'd had done better when she came back. And I found that super helpful, and obviously very grateful that they've sort of gone through this before and I can lean on them.
And as a playing group, for those who do want to start a family and want that to coexist with an international career, I think every woman who wants kids can and a career can relate to those kinds of decisions. Obviously, being an international athlete adds another layer into it. But as players and as women, do you have those discussions about how that could be done, or anxieties that you have around that?
I think it's something that's starting to be talked about a lot more now than previously. Obviously, within the White Ferns group, we've had Amy and Leah, and now myself. And so I think it's definitely something that people or female athletes are considering as an option more so now. Whereas I feel like potentially, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, it almost wasn't spoken about too much. And I feel as though a lot of people, if they wanted to have a family, but they also wanted to play international sport, it sort of came down to a decision of one or the other. But it's really nice nowadays seeing there's so many athletes across different sports who are having, children and families, and then coming back to the game. And so I think it's awesome to see that you can do both whilst it's challenging. But certainly I feel like those conversations are being had a lot more nowadays.
And you're back on the New Zealand central contracts list now. You declined a central contract last year. Could you just tell me a little bit about your decision to do that?
It was more so from the fact that I wouldn't be playing any cricket in that sort of contract period, that I wasn't going to meet sort of the criteria to enable me to have a contract. And so the decision was sort of just to not have one of those for 12 months, and focus on having a baby and making sure she's healthy and everything goes well. And then once I got back into training and got back into New Zealand cricket camps and everything, then fortunately I've been offered a contract for the next season.
And from not just a physical health perspective, but on the mental side of it as well, we know that many mums particularly suffer with postpartum depression and other mental health issues after giving birth. How have you protected your own mental health alongside juggling, being a new mum, training, traveling, and everything?
I think again it comes down to the support network you've got around you. I feel very fortunate that my parents live super close to us at home, and then I've got my partner. He works from home, and he's able to look after her a lot of the time, which enables me to go to training and sort of try and get my cricket career back up and running again. So I think having that support in place, and obviously through New Zealand Cricket and the Players Association, we've got a lot of different avenues that you can sort of look after mental health and that well-being side of things. So I feel very lucky that I've got a lot of people sort of in my corner who are really supportive and of me trying to get back into playing cricket again. And I think having that support around you, it goes a long way.
And if you could give a piece of advice to a player who was deciding to have a baby and continue their career, what would you say to them?
It's obviously a big decision, one to start a family and to want to be a mum in the first place. It's a big decision to do that. tagged along with obviously trying to come back from international cricket. But I think as females, your body is incredible, and it's capable of a lot. And I just would, if anyone out there is sort of wanting to juggle the two together, I just sort of, say go for it. And from my experience, it's been amazing coming back and trying to play international sport, and then obviously having a daughter as well. I think it puts a lot of perspective on life and on your sport as well. And so, I just think it's an amazing thing. And if you're able to sort of juggle the two of them together, it's been really cool.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for taking the time out to speak to me today. I really appreciate it. So good luck for the series.
No worries at all. Thank you.
That is everything for today's show. Thank you, Lauren. We'll be back at the same time next week. And remember, in collaboration with the ECB, the Metrobank Girls in Cricket Fund aims to triple girls' club cricket teams by 2026. Metrobank are removing barriers and creating role models to empower women in cricket and in life. Champion the future at metrobankonline.co.uk/cricket.